Here we are, kids. Here we go. It's the Matt Murphy Radio Show underway for another day on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's a Wednesday, June 21st edition, 2023. Still, it is the summer solstice. I think I have that right. The equinoxes are the spring and the fall, right? So, yes, it's summer solstice, meaning that today is the first day of summer. Happy summer, everybody. Rain showers in your forecast a little later on this afternoon. It's 12:04 right now. Hope your lunchtime's going well. May I be the first to say good afternoon? Let's get the pleasantries out of the way, and we'll get into the serious matters of the day. My name is Matt Murphy. I host proceedings from noon until 3 on a daily basis. There's a Headless Bell. Bell K is his name. We call him Headless Bell because if you're watching on Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, you do not see Bell because he chooses to not show his ever-shrinking head, which is now... that's a way to put it.
That's a way to put it.
I thought about you in the shower this morning.
It's funny. I thought about you last night in my sleep.
Nightmares again.
Yeah.
You still having the spider dreams? Anyway, I really did, because today there's big announcements on a little journey that I'm going to be on, a personal journey that I'm going to be on about a week from now. But I've lost 7.5 pounds in the past week. I'm very excited. Had my don't thank you. Pamela first said, "Man, Murphy, you're number one." She said just then.
Pamela's at 40.
I know, and you're like 60 or something.
62.
It's incredible. So I thought to myself, Bell's almost to his goal. He's close. Good for him. Looking great. Feeling good. I'm sure you have more energy. Okay, more than you had.
Yeah, well, that's more than
everything's relative. Everything's relative.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably sleeping instead of the 12 hours a day that you were getting. You're probably sleeping, 11. Are we down to 11?
Probably up to about 15.
Okay, maybe some more sleep. And, if you're sleeping, you're not eating. And I thought if Bell would just cut his hair off, he'd lose 4 pounds right there.
Oh, it's probably more than that. 6.
More than that?
I could be at my goal weight if I cut my hair, which will never happen.
Okay. I mean, every man's got a line in the sand, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everybody has sacrifices that they make in their life for the things that they want.
Yeah.
You look great, though.
I do.
I wish you'd show yourself to the. You know what? I figured it out. I know. I think I figured it all out. Why you choose not to be on Talk. It's either one of two things. Why you choose not to be on Talk TV. Or it might be a combination of both. It's either the warrants, or it's how good you're looking with all this weight loss, and you don't want to have to deal with all of the women that come out of the woodwork as a result of seeing you on
Never
on
had a problem with women, even when I had too much weight on me.
Like getting them?
Getting them. Keeping them? That's a different story.
Well, you got to keep the basement locked, Bell, if you're going to keep them.
Yeah, take that hat off and turn it sideways.
I didn't say basement because they're in your... Never mind. Anyway, Headless Bell's behind the glass, and it's my understanding that young McMorey will be back presently to present some of the headlines for you. Our telephone numbers and our super text line, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. I invite you to give us a call on any subject matter that we bring up during the course of the day. You always are invited to super text, and once I get the super text line up and running, I'll be able to see said same. So we have a number of guests. One, Congresswoman Nancy Mace. If you've never heard of Nancy, she is a mover and a shaker in the House of Representatives, and I'm excited to have her on today at 12:35. She has some strong feelings about the indictment against Donald Trump, some strong feelings about the Biden administration and the slap on the wrist received by Hunter Biden, and some are saying that Nancy Mace might be a strong candidate in the running for a vice presidential nod from someone. Obviously wouldn't be from Tim Scott if he should become the nominee, considering that he's from South Carolina, as is Nancy. So who might it be? I'm hearing a couple of names. We'll get into that at 12:35 today. At some point during the proceedings, I have no idea when because of votes and all sorts of other things, Tim Burchett will join us on the show today. Look, I have an update on Tim Burchett right now. So, we'll see. We'll see. And to answer your question, we'll write at 12:35. Hopefully you got that message. And then Cameron Smith in his normal slot at 2 o'clock. So a loaded down show, and obviously much to do. The United States Coast Guard this is a live update. I think I want to take this, Bell. If you're over there if you're on Fox News and you're actually listening to me right now, maybe you're not listening to me right now, I might want to take this. Of course, okay, I guess you're not listening to me right now. All right. I might want to take this. The Coast Guard is currently updating on the submarine, and I'm on, if you're on the same channel that I'm on, I think this update is live right now, and I'd kind of like to take it. The submarine, the Titanic tourism submarine, we're getting banging noises intermittently underneath the ocean, and there's an update going on by Jamie Frederick, who's with the United States Coast Guard, the 1st District. Just join that in progress, Bell, if you don't mind.
I can't tell you exactly how much they have aboard, but they do have some limited rations aboard the vessel.
Speaking to the families, how much hope can you give them after hearing those noises?
Listen, I think you need to be careful. We need to have hope, right? But I can't tell you what the noises are. But what I can tell you is, and I think this is the most important point, we're searching where the noises are, and that's all we can do at this point.
Is that your best clue right now about the status of the submersible or those noises? And are the noises continuing now? Have they stopped or are they continuing?
So I just wanted to. So it was my understanding that the P3 had heard some noises today as well. But so I do want to take just an opportunity to invite Carl to the podium just to talk a little bit about. He has a little bit more expertise in underwater acoustics, and maybe just to speak to that in general, because again, there are noises below the surface of the ocean, so I'll just turn it to Carl.
You're listening to a press conference regarding the Titanic tourism craft that is missing and currently being searched for.
So again, Carl Hartsfield from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. So the ocean is a very complex place. Obviously, human sounds, nature sounds, and it's very difficult to discern what the source of those noises are at times. But I can tell you that this team has multiple sensors. They're in the area. They're sending data back expeditiously to the best in the world people to analyze that data, and then they're feeding the results of that analysis back to the unified team, and they're making decisions. So Woods Hole is here in an advisory role, but by our expertise, what I see is a very tight operational loop that's making decisions based on data, and nothing is ruled out.
Are the noises continuing? He said he heard the noises this morning. Are they still continuing on a regular basis now?
There have been multiple reports of noises, and every one of those noises is being analyzed, tracked, looked for patterns, and reported upon.
Can you describe what the noise sounds like that they're hearing?
Well, the noises, again, very complex in the ocean. You have to be an acoustic analysis, and you have to have context. They're trying to put all the pieces together. The noises have been described as banging noises. But again, they have to put the whole picture together in context, and they have to eliminate potential man-made sources other than the Titan.
Is it possible a ship in the ocean or even some mammals out there could mimic that kind of sound?
So I can tell you from my experience with acoustics that there are sounds by biologics that sound man-made to the untrained ear, but I can assure you that the people listening to these tapes are trained. There are a lot of vessels in the area, and they each make noise, right? So all of that has to be eliminated, and it's analysis over time. Plus, as the captain said, the team is searching in the right area. So if you continue to do the analysis, look for different patterns, and search in the right area, you're doing the best you possibly can do with the best people on the case.
A deep ocean scouting system flyway that was sent there to the location. Can you tell if it's on site yet, and how it operates, and how long it would take to rescue it with that tank?
Which system is he speaking about? You know the system. What's the system that you're talking about?
It's called the Flyway Deep Ocean Scouting System.
That's just the hydraulic.
Yeah, that's
a crane.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. So that's a piece of equipment. It's a crane piece of equipment. There are a lot of pieces of equipment flowing in through St. John's right now. One thing I did want to mention, I think it's important. Some of the ROV capability that's arriving soon is really great, incredible capability. One thing I want to point out is that French team that's coming in to serve aboard with their equipment aboard a French ship. They bring some state-of-the-art equipment, and so once they get on, we're going to have more assets down to look, and we'll continue to put them where we think the best location is.
Considering how many days passed, are you still optimistic that you're gonna find them both?
So how many days? You just how many days, or so?
How many days?
Well, so we have to remain optimistic and hopeful when you're in a search and rescue case. So we're right in the middle of the search and rescue case. So I don't want to get into a discussion about when that would end with respect to this case. What I will tell you, though, I'm happy to explain to you kind of how that process were to work. The Coast Guard prosecutes search and rescue cases on a daily basis, and sometimes we don't find what we're looking for, and you have to carefully consider all of the factors, and there are a lot of factors you consider. And then after you consider all of those factors, sometimes you're in a lot of factors you consider. And then after you consider all of those factors, sometimes you're in a position where you have to make a tough decision. We're not there yet. But if we continue to search, potentially we could be at that point. But again, we're not there yet. And that's a discussion that we will have with the family long before I'm going to discuss that here publicly.
What would the rescue operation look like? What would the rescue operation look like?
The likelihood that they can survive beyond tomorrow morning when the oxygen is expected to run out.
Yeah, so I can't put a number on the I'm not going to put a percent. I don't have a percentage number. What I would tell you is that is just one data point, and there are more data points than that we have to look at. So right now we continue to search, and we'll have that later.
Captain, if I could, who heard the noises, and how often do they hear the noises? Can you just give us any more specifics? Did
Sure.
you hear them this morning? Were they at 30-minute intervals? Just give us some more specifics.
So the report. So.
And who described them as banging? Sorry, this gentleman said banging.
The noises were heard by a Canadian P3, and that was this morning and some yesterday. I don't know specifically or they're at 30-minute intervals, but again, I really think the important point to that is we're in the air, we're searching there. We moved assets and we're searching there, and we'll continue to do so.
Could you
What would the rescue operation look like?
And I don't know if you mentioned this yet, but is the vessel itself, what's the likelihood that it's actually still operable at this hour, the vessel itself?
Yeah, I don't. So listen, whether it's operable or whether it's sitting on the ocean floor, whether it's in the sea column, whether it's in the surface, it's all speculation, and we're just not in the business of speculation. We're in the business of searching, and we're putting everything we can with the data we have to search for the vessel. And I think we'll take one more question. Go ahead, sir.
Just want to get a bit more about the role of the Navy and the assistance being provided, as well as the equipment that is being deployed.
Yeah, so we asked for some additional subsurface support, and we got that through the Navy, through a liaison officer. He's just one of many team members, and we're greatly appreciative of the British government and all the support they've given us.
Can we expect a daily update now on this?
So I think the plan will be to do a daily like this. I'm not going to lock into that right now, but we'll keep you informed, and certainly if there's any major developments, we'll let you know. Thank you very much.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. There is a search underway, as you probably well know, for the Ocean Gate Titan sub, known as the Titanic tourism submarine. I'll give you a description of said submarine. We talked about this yesterday to a fair degree. Did not focus on it. But now developments in the case lead me more compelled to discuss it. There are more vessels headed to the search area. The Coast Guard is currently searching an area about 2 times the size of Connecticut. Connecticut's not a really big state, but it's still pretty big. 2 times the size of Connecticut in an effort to try to find these 5 individuals who were in the submarine after it lost contact a couple of days ago with the surface. So it merits a little bit of a deeper dive, no pun intended, onto what this submersible is and why exactly it was doing what it was doing and what measures are being taken to try to save these people. First and foremost, it's like a scene out of a movie. I mean, this is like a movie. It will either be a tragedy or it will be a drama with a positive ending. I would have told you that the chances of survival yesterday afternoon when Bell and I were talking about it at 5%. Now they hear banging, but there's a weird aspect to this banging in as much as it was coming intermittently or periodically at a given moment and time. One would think that banging on the hull of this submersible would not exert that much energy. One would further think that it would not necessarily eliminate oxygen in their airspace. But one of the dumber questions that I heard in that press conference was, are you going to be having daily briefings? Well, maybe one more. But other than that, what do you want an update on? Because after the next one, it doesn't seem likely that we're going to get anyone out of this alive. 5597, I've heard this. GPS 5597 says, can't they look for a cell phone ping? Oh, don't look that way, Bell. Come on the radio and you talk to me. Don't be mean. That's a perfectly, put it this way, in a brainstorming session, and that's what we're doing right now. We're brainstorming how to get these people out of this mess. Are there any bad questions or ideas in a brainstorming session?
Yes.
Is that one of them?
Yes.
Okay.
There are no cell towers on the bottom of the ocean to ping off
and
of.
You can't get GPS on the bottom of the ocean, and you cannot get a cell phone signal at the bottom of the ocean. There are no towers down there. They are, just for context, and God bless. Oh, no. See, you made him mad. Oh, no, wait. Somebody called? No, you're making other people mad. Oh, 9058 is cussing it. Either us or the person that had asked that question. Oh, no. Y'all, don't do this. I love every single one of you. I mean, you Murphy minions out there are my family, but don't do this. Don't eat your own. Someone says, Jesus, I swear. The other, Matt said, can't they just drain the ocean? Can't they get a cell? Why can't they just shine a flashlight down there? Can't they send rescue dolphins? Y'all don't be mean. That's Cousin Eddie. He's a little slow. You got to give him a little break every once in a while.
Even the internet on the boat is Starlink.
Right. And it's my understanding that they're having some trouble.
And when I say boat, I mean the mothership.
Yeah, I think there's a difficulty in understanding how. I mean, they're a mile, 1.2 miles? I believe that's right. That's where the Titanic landed, on the bottom of the ocean. I mean,
13,000 feet.
I mean, that's about 1.2 miles. 50. Let's see if my
5,280.
I had it. You show off. 5,280 feet. How many meters is that? How many yards is that? I think it's 1,340 on yards. Anyway, about a mile, 1.2 miles. That is a long way down under a lot of water. It is very dark. You cannot see. You cannot hear. Well, you can hear. And that's why they hear the banging. So the missing submersible, we'll talk about that in just a moment, maybe get your calls on it, and some of your better suggestions as to what to do to save these people. Apparently, if this banging is any indication, there are still people alive, but the submersible has become inoperative. Did you hear that they were running this on a Nintendo controller or a PlayStation controller?
Yeah, something like that, which makes sense because it's a very cheap piece of equipment that's designed specifically for that kind of work, and if it's easily replaceable.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that I understand that a Nintendo or a PlayStation controller is a perfectly good piece of electronic equipment. I just don't know that would ooze confidence in me if I got on.
You have to remember, they're not actually controlling the boat itself. It's the electronics that the controller is hooked into.
I get.
So it's really
I understand.
just about.
I know that if I push a button, I'm not moving a rudder physically.
Right.
I mean, I get that, but I'm telling the computer to do something.
Yeah.
All right, so I mean, it's exactly the same thing as playing a video game at that point, except if I get stuck on the bottom of the ocean during a video game, I just hit the off button, reset, and start the game over again. They can't do that. Yeah, you cheat. You put in a cheat code. 1224, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Love to hear from you. 615-737-9986. It's The Murphy Show. I spoke with Stokes Nielsen several weeks ago. We sat down and met, and he had written an incredible song to honor women in the military. As a matter of fact, more specifically, they're doing this song for the Women's Memorial or Military Memorial in Arlington, Virginia, at the Arlington National Cemetery. And Stokes Nielsen has sung the song as a part of the Military Women's Memorial and Women's Veterans Recognition Day and the 75th anniversary of the Women's Armed Services Integration Act. But now Stokes is looking for that incredible Middle Tennessee or Nashville performer to record this song. It's a part of a recorded project for the song. And I'm going to give you all of the info, and you can reach out to Stokes, and he will get back to you, and then you communicate, and he'll talk to you about the vetting process to pick the person to record the song. Now, Stokes performed the song in Arlington National Cemetery at the Military Women's Memorial, and you can record the song. I know there are a lot of music lovers that listen to this radio show. There are a lot of musicians that listen to this radio show, and this could be a break that you are looking for. We're choosing one singer right here from the state of Tennessee. So contact Stokes. He's the man with the plan. strengthofamericasong@gmail.com. That's the email address. strengthofamericasong@gmail.com. And when you contact him, let him know that you heard about this opportunity on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Efficient Heating and Cooling wants to be your next stop, or the next stop for them, I should say. They have incredible qualified crews that want to come out and make sure your AC is running properly, and you need them now more than ever. It's summertime, after all. I've been waiting to say that for a while. In the summertime heat in Nashville and the surrounding communities, things can get oppressive quickly if your AC goes out. Who are you going to call? Just a real quick question. Who do you call? Well, I encourage you, I recommend, the only one you'll hear me recommend is you bring Jeff Eddy and his crew out from Efficient Heating and Cooling to either repair or potentially replace your system, depending on the circumstances and the problems with the system itself. Efficient Heating and Cooling will never charge you overtime rates. They'll never charge you over $125 for a residential maintenance call, and no matter how many units you might have. And thirdly, Jeff Eddy is going to be honest and straightforward with you when it comes time to replace that unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Why not call them today at 615-784-4424, 784-4424. Write that number down or go to efficienthvac.net. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Nashville Painting Company. I've known Jeremy Reeves longer than I've known you and longer than I've been in Nashville. As a matter of fact, I met him about 10 years ago in Birmingham, Alabama, when he was painting my house. I trusted Jeremy then. I trust him now. He moved on to Nashville, and almost a decade later, he's been painting houses all throughout our community, doing it better than anyone else, more responsible, licensed, bonded, and insured. Obviously locally owned and operated. Nashville Painting Company wants to paint your house too. Is it time to get that interior room or rooms taken care of? Maybe you want a color change on the outside, or you've noticed flaking and chipping. Whatever the situation, Nashville Painting Company is the place to go. I trust them. You should too. NashvillePaintingCompany.com, NashvillePaintingCompany.com, or give Jeremy and his team a call. 615-635-0350, 635-0350 for Nashville Painting Company. McGill's world-famous clock store is located just on Airlane Drive off of Elm Hill Pike, minutes away from the sound of my voice. 35,000 square feet of incredible comfort and selection and style. Not just the guns, of course, the parts and accessories. Let's talk about that for a moment. You know, you buy a part from McGill's world-famous clock store, odds are they made it right there. They have a manufacturing division. They have 3D manufacturing that is just incredible. I took a tour of their facility some months back with Dan the Man, who is it was just absolutely keeps the thing running. And let me tell you, They make a lot of the parts that people sell all over the country and all over the globe. And they buy, obviously, mail through their online website at glockstore.com. But better yet, go in and get yourself a pyramid trigger or a tungsten guide rod or extended controller or a night sight, and they'll install it while you wait. They have friendly, knowledgeable employees that are never going to talk down to you. Plus, if it's time to get trained, I strongly recommend training from the world-famous Glock Store. Go to glockstore.com or shoot270.com to find out additional information. Better yet, what are you waiting on? Get in your car, drive just off Elm Hill Pike, minutes away from the sound of my voice to the world-famous Glock Store. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll get back to the submarine in just a moment, the submersible Ocean Gate Titan. 2 previous Ocean Gate employees voiced safety concerns about the now missing Titan sub. One would expect the individuals aboard the sub would have understood the risks involved in going that far down underneath the water. I think the confusion is my assumption. I made an assumption, Bell, that my memory was correct, that the Titanic sank to a depth of 1.2 miles. I could be wrong on that. Our foot to mile ratio is correct. It's about 1,300 feet. But it may be that I'm mistaken on
13,000 feet.
13,000 feet. It may be that I'm mistaken on how many thousand feet there are down. So,
well, the graph that CNN had up said it was 13,000 feet.
So that means it can't be 13,000 feet because CNN's never right about anything.
Okay, it's 2,989. 12,000.
Whatever.
It's in a lot of water.
Speaking of CNN being wrong about so many things, I mean, obviously, the John Durham testimony this morning is a subject for us today as we unpack the many different facets of the show. And in doing so, we welcome from the Murphy Show hotline Representative Nancy Mace. She is of South Carolina. She is a rising star in the GOP, and it is an honor to have her on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Representative Mace, good afternoon. Hope you're well.
Hey, good afternoon. I hope y'all are well, too.
I know of you from some of our various congressmen here in the state of Tennessee who say wonderful things about you and your service in the House of Representatives. I'll ask you this kind of open-ended question. What got you into politics and what called you to serve the people of South Carolina?
Oh, where do I even start? I mean, I was a woman I was a working mom, single working mom, frustrated with what I've seen in state and federal government. And one day I just decided I'd throw in my hat and I'd run. I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school at the age of 17. I got my career started at a Waffle House on the side of the road. I would eventually figure life out and become the first woman to graduate from the Citadel Military College of South Carolina. I would start a company or two in my 20s and 30s and then run for office and try to make a difference in every way that I can. I think small parts can make a big difference, and I'm trying to do that in Congress today.
Nancy, something you just said in that answer is going to derail this conversation for the rest of it, because I put myself through college working third shift at Waffle House.
Oh my gosh, you did not.
I managed. I went to WU.
Wow.
I went to Waffle House University. I managed for a short period of time.
Yeah, it's a great job. You get great benefits, great pay. I was just a waitress at the time, but I think, I was making well above minimum wage. I was making a lot of money for a teenage high school dropout. I loved working there.
Well, let me tell you, one of these days, let's have another conversation, and we can share Waffle House stories, because I got a lot of them, and I bet you do too.
I sure do.
You are making waves just with your straightforward nature, and I think it's a dose of fresh common sense in Washington, D.C., the way you see things. But I'm just gonna read a couple of things that come up when I pop a Google search into Nancy Mace, okay?
Uh-oh.
The new Trump acolyte no one saw coming. Nancy Mace. That's Politico. Business Insider says Trump world speculates Nancy Mace could be a potential VP running mate. And then thirdly, Representative Nancy Mace on Hunter Biden plea deal, a slap on the wrist. Is all of this attention surprising to you?
It is, actually, and I'm just trying to be the voice of common sense. I call the balls and strikes. I don't care if you have an R or a D by your name. Republicans have a history of spending just as big as Democrats, right? And so I just try to call it like I see it on either side of the aisle, and just work hard and deliver for my state of South Carolina and my country. That's what the American people want. It's what they deserve.
What is your takeaway? I don't know how much of the John Durham testimony that you've absorbed. What is your takeaway from that? And I think these three issues are obviously interrelated, and it would probably take about 2 hours to extrapolate all of them. But the indictment of Donald Trump, we see that on the heels of that. You see, as you described it, the slap on the wrist that Hunter Biden received. And in the midst of that, we are revisiting the absolute travesty that was this Russian collusion hoax. Put all those three into context for us.
Well, it's a strike on democracy is what it is. And every time, and I'm on the oversight committee, I don't sit on judiciary, so I haven't had a chance to review the John Durham testimony from today, which will be going on all day, by the way, and we encourage Americans to tune in. But every time the oversight committee finds evidence of corruption or bribery or money laundering with the Biden family, Joe and Hunter and others, they indict Donald Trump. And I think the American people need to see the facts and see it for what it is. The distraction that these indictments take away from Joe Biden and what he and his family have been doing and doesn't seem like it's been fully investigated to the fullest extent of the law. And to me, as someone who's been tried to strike an independent tone in Congress and seeing how this is happening and how it's going down, it's so unfair and it's un-American. Whatever the standard is, how we're going to handle documents, it should be applied to everybody. And look, Hillary Clinton got away with it. Then you look at Durham, and you see that there was no basis in fact, no evidence for the Russian collusion, and the FBI and DOJ went forward with it anyway. You have to ask yourself, what the heck is going on?
Well, how would you answer the question if I asked you, what the heck's going on?
Well, I mean, to look at, this is why people are so skeptical. They hate Congress. They hate the federal government. They, allege that there's a deep state. That's when you see the evidence of the FBI and DOJ weaponizing against their political enemies because of their political affiliation or just because their last name is Trump. That's why people are so eroded with where the direction of the country is headed. And it's really important for us as a nation that we elect a leader in 24. This is why 2024 is so important. We want to keep the majority in the House. We want to flip the Senate and change direction of the country. We also have to win the White House. So it's going to be really important for us to think about who we're going to elect in the future so we can be effective and right the ship, right the wrongs that have been happening in our country for decades.
I said yesterday in the aftermath of the Department of Justice's decision to essentially let Hunter Biden skate on tax evasion and lying on a gun form. I mean, these are two issues that I thought the Democrats, it mattered to them, that rich people pay their fair share in taxes and that people don't skirt the edges and find loopholes or lie out and out, break the law when it comes to gun purchases. But, they're suspiciously silent. I believe that this was a way to try to shut down the Oversight Committee, or at least human interest in the Oversight Committee. And I believe we must draw a line in the sand and say these are different issues. They are connected in some ways regarding the monies that Hunter Biden was making that he wasn't paying taxes on. But other than that, this is a different and unique set of circumstances involving Joe, Hunter, and these foreign entanglements, correct?
Oh, 100%. And even if the DOJ doesn't press charges in the Biden investigation, the American people at the very least should be able at a bare minimum to see the evidence that we have seen on the Oversight Committee, because much of what we've seen is not classified. And they need to see the evidence of bribery. They need to see the evidence in the bank records and the suspicious activity reports. They should see all of that and come to their own conclusion. And their conclusion will be very different, starkly different than what the mainstream media is peddling right now.
The Biden administration announced an additional $1.3 billion in future monies going to Ukraine. This is after the billions and billions and billions of dollars that we've spent with zero oversight as to where that money is going. It is, in my opinion, walking us to war footing. We see the slow creep where first you have, we're just training them a little bit, or we're giving them money, and now we're giving them arms, and now we're giving them tanks, and now we're sending over fighter jets. Are you fearful that this is a slow walk toward war? What's your position on the Ukrainian situation?
Well, I think you'll see more emergency supplemental spending. I mean, we had a debt ceiling bill that had no caps and no limits to it. And you'll see more emergency supplemental spending outside of what has been agreed to by the House for emergencies like Ukraine, like, maybe hopefully there won't be, but a hurricane in the future or market stabilization. But they're going to spend into oblivion. They're spending your children, your grandchildren's futures away. And that's wrong. We should have oversight on where all that money is going, especially when it's going overseas. But we haven't had a chance really to get those reports and to get that oversight done by Congress so far. And I apologize. We're voting right now.
No, you need to run.
I'm running in to go vote.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Nancy, we'll do it again. We'll do it again. I don't want to keep you from voting.
Anytime.
But let's make it happen again. And in the meantime, go enjoy some scattered, smother covered, chunk top diced. Okay.
You got it. And Captain Spice and peppered. All right. Thanks, guys.
See you later.
Have a great day.
There's
All right,
Representative Nancy Mace joining us for a few moments. Scheduling that interview a couple of weeks ago, I had no idea she was a Waffle House alum. That makes me like her all the more. But she's likable besides, and she's one of the rising stars. Absolutely love that. All right, it is 12:44, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Here's our problem. Here's our math problem, Bell.
I have no math problem.
If it's 13,000 feet, then it's 2.4 miles.
Okay.
So I was saying 1.2 miles, and then we were saying it's 5,200 square feet, but it's 13,000 square feet. So it's not 1.2 miles. It's more than 2.
5,280 feet.
Well, whatever.
Not square feet.
No, it's square feet.
Why are you making it worse?
I was told there would be no math. I used to be good at math.
I didn't.
There was a time. So 5,280 square feet, 280 square feet would be, that's a little over 2 miles. So that's the deal. So they're a little over 2 miles down. One way or the other, 1 mile, 2 miles, cell phone ain't getting down there. You can have all the cell phones you want.
Dive down, go get them. Diver in a scuba tank.
So can we put all that to bed? Everybody that's giving us the math on it. JB, I understand that there's 5,280 feet in a mile. Everybody knows that. Thank you, JB, for the confidence. That's JB out there. Why do we lose our mind when the left says democracy, but not when people on the right say democracy? Is it time to do this again?
Yeah, that's got to happen at least once a week, I think.
I guess. Okay, 6837. It is. We need a theme song for it. We need to figure that out, like William Tell Overture, dun, 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 where Matt Murphy explains this. It has been misexplained over the years so much, and Republicans love. I think part of it is the nature of gravitating to that. I mean, understand, we are a representative republic in the United States of America. I get that. And republic, that's where Republican comes from, right? And I feel like conservatives hate the democracy word so much because we're not a democracy. Plus, Democrat, right? Democrat, democracy, so they hate it badly. Let me explain this to you in a way that everybody can understand it, including 6837. He says, why do we lose our minds when the left says democracy, but not when the people on the right refer to democracy? Democracy is a catch-all term. There are two basic forms of democracy, one that we know in the modern era and one that we do not. There are direct and indirect forms of democracy. Think of a pyramid structure. Democracy. Let's talk about types of democracy. There's direct and indirect. I'll get to direct in a moment. In the indirect form of democracy, you have constitutional or representative republics. You also have constitutional or representative monarchs, which has a king or a queen involved. But you still have a parliament, a legislative body that is elected by the people to represent them in any given system of government. So a representative republic is a form of a democracy. Democracy is the more generic term. Representative republic is being more specific. So it is a fact that America is a democracy. Our specific type of democracy is indirect, and the specific type of indirect democracy is a constitutional or representative republic. The other form of democracy is called direct democracy, and that's what most people are referring to when they get mad at you for calling America a democracy. That is the Greek form of government, briefly. That is where everybody votes. That's mob rule, essentially. We don't live under that form of democracy, but that doesn't mean that we don't live under democracy. And it is a hill that I will die on. I am right on this, and if you don't believe me, you are wrong.
I'm just going to take this whole rant and I'm going to post it. And from now on, when anybody asks you that question, we can just send them the link to the rant.
And already, we're constituted. I just explained that a constitutional republic is a form of indirect democracy, which is a part of the democracy pyramid. I don't know why people get so mad about this. Why do you get so mad about this? When you're wrong. And so the lake, well, God bless. People are throwing Phil Valentine would disagree with you. And he got to his front. Well, I don't know what Phil's take on it was. And I'm not going to speak any ill about Phil Valentine ever in my life because I love the man. I'm telling you the facts that democracy and its form of government come in two forms, direct and indirect. And a constitutional or a representative republic is a form of an indirect democracy. There is no other way to look at it. And anybody that has told you direct democracy is what everybody's mad about. Direct democracy is what we want to fight against. And I get that. I understand that fight. That fight involves individuals on the political left wanting the wolves to vote the sheep for dinner. That's mob rule. We are a rule of law. We believe in the rule of law. And we govern through the rule of law. Okay, I'm taking my rant pants off and probably the rest of my clothes. It's 12:50 on Super Talk. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I know that some of those companies you work with, you're getting a little uncomfortable working with, and it's hard to tell who's who nowadays. Every day, the parallel economy grows bigger. What does that mean? Well, the big mobile companies, for years, they've been dumping millions into leftist causes, and you got to take it because you need a cell phone, right? Well, here comes Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile doesn't solve every problem in the world, but they solve a little bit of it in as much as you want to give as little of your money to a company that's going to funnel that money into leftist causes or whatnot as possible, right? Well, Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider offering dependable nationwide coverage on all three major networks. You get the best possible service in your area without all of the woke politics. Switch to Patriot Mobile. You keep your phone. You keep your phone number. Switching is easy because all of their customer service is 100% U.S.-based. Makes switching so easy. Go to patriotmobile.com/Murphy. patriotmobile.com/Murphy or 878-PATRIOT, 878-PATRIOT. Free activation with the offer code Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-Y, patriotmobile.com/Murphy. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Do you guys do emojis on texts?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do?
I've sent them to you.
I mean, generally to the. I mean, I know you do, but I'm furthering a thought that I had during the break. There is that I'm big on the I'm big on the kind of the smiling with your teeth closed.
Yeah.
That emoji. When I say something snarky, I'm also the smiley emoji is big for me because I think it's important for tone, right? Hey, I'm saying this in a lighthearted fashion. Don't take it too seriously, kind of thing, right?
Right.
I'm trying here. I'm reflecting on some of the commentary that I'm getting from the listening audience. I look.
But just for the record, until you put your clothes back on, I'm not putting you back on the TV.
I got complimented by a barista about my shirt today.
Did you?
A youngster, like probably a 23-year-old, big bushy head of hair. He's like, dude, that's a cool shirt. I was like, thanks, man. I appreciate that. It made me feel hip. I know I'm not. It does not bother me. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Write this down, friends. This could be a whiteboard statement. No whiteboard today.
Ugh.
It does not bother me that I am no longer cool. It does bother me to know that I never really was. But I lived in that illusion for a long time. The smiling with your teeth closed emoji is actually the emoji for grimacing. Yeah, you know. Mac Morey keeps sending pineapple emojis with eggplant. I can't figure out why. Don't stop. I should preview these things before I read them. I'll get into some of the response to my democracy rant coming up in just a moment. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. U.S. and Canadian military teams racing against time to locate the 5 people on board the tourist sub that vanished Sunday, heading to see the Titanic wreckage.
Noises that could be banging or pinging have been heard both yesterday and now today by a Canadian submarine hunter aircraft. But if it's a 5 aboard the Titan making those noises isn't clear. Carl Hartsfield is an ocean physics expert helping in the search. He says the sounds could be coming from sea life, boats, or many other things in the water.
Human sounds, nature sounds, and it's very difficult to discern what the source of those noises are at times.
Other than noises, there have been no potential signs of the men with the clock ticking on oxygen. If they're alive, as they exhale, they would be poisoning their own air. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Nearly a year after a Supreme Court ruling ended federal abortion rights, the fight continues at the state level.
In the year since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, 14 states have banned abortion, 6 more have limited services, while others have had bans blocked in court. Washington Senator Patty Murray.
Women are forced to stay pregnant against their will, even when their health and lives are at risk.
This week, congressional Democrats will push legislation to keep online health data private, protect access to birth control, and make it clear women can travel to other states for an abortion. Republicans expected to block those efforts. Lindsay Watts, ABC News, Washington.
John Durham, the special counsel for the investigation into the origins of the Russia probe, testified before a House Judiciary Committee today. Durham's report concluded the FBI did not conduct a fair investigation when looking into possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. But Durham today says the probe was valid.
Our report should not be read to suggest in any way that Russian election interference was not a significant threat. It was.
Republicans maintain that the investigation should not have been launched in the first place. You're listening to ABC News.
You have heard the saying that all good things must come to an end, or what goes up must come down, or a stitch in time saves nine, and other cliches. Well, Mark at the Safe House is reminding you of at least one of those, and that is all good things must come to a close. And we've enjoyed a sales tax holiday on gun safes for the better part of 2 years now, and it is coming to an end. Decisions have been made on the government level to say, no, we want to collect that money. Well, that means that time is of the essence to get your gun safe. If you're thinking of upgrading, if it's been in your mind, maybe you've filled your current gun safes with a few too many guns and you want to get a new one. Or if you're thinking, man, I got a lot of guns laying around and I need a way to keep them safe. Or perhaps you have a new one coming in your family and that baby can't be around those guns, so now it's time to lock those guns up. Or if you've just been generally thinking about getting a safe for you and your family, it's time to go to the Safe House. Mark at the Safe House has about 600 or so safes right there in stock, ready for you. And Browning has a huge rebate going on. And more importantly than that, this sales tax holiday is going away at the end of the month. So take advantage of it. Save hundreds while you do by going to Nashville Safe House. NashvilleSafeHouse.com, NashvilleSafeHouse.com, or they're located right across the street from the City Cemetery on 4th Avenue South in Nashville. You'll see their incredible showroom. You'll see Donald Trump standing. I think Donald Trump's still standing there on the corner. Ronald Reagan's in there too. You'll see, and their Employee of the Year, Joe Biden. Right there at Nashville's Safe House. Go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com or 4th Avenue South in Nashville. Here we are, and here we go. It's hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. There are your pleasantries. Good afternoon to you. That's another pleasantry. It's 105-615-737-9986 if you'd like to become a part of the show. Talking about this lost submarine or submersible and what the Coast Guard and others are doing to try to retrieve it, and the obviously 5 people hopefully alive inside of it. We'll continue breaking that down for you. Taking your calls and super texts on a variety of other issues. John Durham has testified before the House Judiciary earlier today, and we will speak to that in just a moment. Governor Bill Lee has a statement regarding the safety of Tennessee students and teachers, and I will play that statement for you in just a moment, about a minute and a half long. Speaking of the governor, I had an opportunity to speak to some folks from the governor's office regarding the special session, and I'll kind of relate to you where their mind space is on all of that coming up in just a couple of minutes. Also, what else is on the docket today? Oh, an update on, I mentioned the update on the special session. And, there's something I'm missing. Oh, yeah. No, it was the Durham thing. All right, so we got off on a tangent regarding democracy versus republic. I don't want to go through it again. But some of your thoughts. I just... 3641, Miss Sandra, I'm just not going to get to you. I'm just not going to get to you, and I'm trying to. So sometimes when we have discussions, like we did with Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina earlier today, the word democracy gets thrown out. And some of you, either on super text or telephone call or email or whatever form of communication you choose to take, maybe you're on the F&M Bank chat line over on the talk side of things. You can go and chat on the F&M Bank talk chat line and reach us that way, too, on Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. So,
did you see the title?
I have not.
Dude,
you're doing it for them, not for me.
No, I'm doing it for us.
Okay,
the only
you're
people
doing it
I'm
for
trying
us.
to make laugh is you and me, because these are inside jokes a lot of times.
What is the title of today's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Talk TV broadcast?
Matt Murphy, noon to 3. He loves you. Email him. He'll tell you.
Oh, you suck. Don't email me right now.
And then in the description, I put Hunter Biden for president. He hates taxes and loves guns.
Well, I mean, there's a great piece online about that. I mean, Hunter, right? He thinks the taxation is an oppressive state of affairs in the United States of America, and that we should be able to buy our guns unfettered by these silly forms with silly questions on them. I like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's good. So the email thing, Bell well knows. A couple of days ago, I got an alert that my storage in my Outlook, my company email, I have another email, matt@murphyshow.com, that is still up and running and available. But if you're routing things through the company email, matt.murphy@cumulus.com, all of that's getting clogged and quagged. And that includes the Talk 99, the WTN, I guess it's 997 WTN, the email that's up and running over there. So my storage is full. My 2 gigs or whatever it is storage is full. So I went to empty it like a good boy. I go over and I go to I get everything into the deleted folders. The problem was I consistently delete my inbox and my deleted messages, but I don't delete my sent. And those have built up over the course of time. And I had 15,000 sent messages that were just sitting there unbeknownst to me. Okay, get those sent messages over to the deleted folder and remove them from the deleted folder permanently, and we're all good. Except it won't remove them from the deleted folder. And I've been trying for 2 days. And finally, I had to call IT. And Bell was witness to my discussion with the IT department. And I was proven right, I think, that it wasn't an operator error. There was something janky going on because he had to send up a ticket. Do you know what that means, by the way? I have no idea what that means. I'll just send up a ticket.
It's basically it's a notice to IT. That's really all it is. It's like an email to IT saying, hey, I have this problem. And then they put it in, they triage it, and they go, you're last.
They love using these terms, right? They put it in the queue, don't they? They put it in the queue. They'll triage, put it in the queue, and your ticket's in the queue until such time as someone gets to it. And one of the nerds over there in IT will solve my problem for me.
You shot yourself in the foot. We're taking care of this brain wound over here.
I'm just glad it wasn't something like, well, is your computer on? Oh, no.
Oh, and I've pulled that. Yeah. I complained that I couldn't get on the internet one day, and I hadn't plugged in my...
I was about to say, wasn't your problem one day that you had forgotten to plug it in?
Yeah, I thought I had plugged it in. I just hadn't pushed it all the way in. And Ian walks in, and he's like, oh, there it is. Click. Done.
Have you turned... it is an eternal... Everyone that works in an office space with an IT department will understand this. Have you turned it off and turned it back on? Yes! All right, finally... I'm going to wrap this up. And Sandra, it is stuck in her mind, and she's just an example of many of you that are expressing your opinions. What I've said is factually true. And I understand that there are entities that are trying to take the word democracy and change it and turn it into something else. And I'm trying to hold on to it for you. We in the United States of America are a republic. More specifically, we are a representative republic. We can also be called a constitutional republic. Those two terms are interchangeable. A difference would be like a constitutional monarchy, which is what you see in Great Britain. A constitutional monarchy or a constitutional republic is a form of a democracy. It is a part of indirect democracy. There are two types of democracy, direct and indirect. Think of it, once again, like a pyramid. Democracy is on the top, and one branch is direct, one branch is indirect. What you hate so much, what I hate so much, are direct democracies because that's mob rule. That's a bunch of wolves voting the sheep for dinner. We can't have that. Which is why we have a republic. But that doesn't mean that a republic isn't a form of democracy. And so, then I love you, Sandra, and thank you for putting up with me, and thank you for allowing me to use you as an example. She said even the founding fathers said we didn't have a democracy. It's a republic if you can keep it. You're right. You're right. And I understand what the Pledge of Allegiance said. A republic is indeed a form of democracy. So this is the way that I would...
That quote is kind of maligned, too, by the way. Franklin said... when asked what kind of government do we have, he said a republic if you can keep it. He didn't say not a democracy. He said a republic if you can keep it.
Right, and I'm certain if you asked Benjamin Franklin, is a republic a type of democracy? Well, of course it is. So this is the way that I would describe it, and this is it for me, and we'll move on to other things. If I was a professional football player and you said to me, what do you do for a living? Is it correct for me to say I play sports? Of course it is. But is it more specific to say I play football? So if you ask me what type of government the United States is, I could say we're a democracy in as much as football is a sport. But if I wanted to be more specific, like the NFL player would be, and say I play football as opposed to I play sports, the sports, it's a more generic term. It's a more generic thing. Sports could be football or baseball or any of these other things. It is more specific to say we are a constitutional republic. And that is what I have to say about the matter, except this. 5668 says, I think we should try direct democracy for one day, see how it goes. Just like a one-day purge. That's how it would go. It'd go like that movie, The Purge, where everybody would be voting everybody off the island. I've long conceptualized an island that we could just send the people that I don't like. I mean, I don't know that I want to be responsible for the death of human beings, but I'll send you to a deserted island. You're on your own after that.
If we wanted to get all those people onto one island, we'd have to take over Australia.
It would have to be a pretty big island.
It would.
Or you just pack them in. You just really pack them in. 615-737-9986. Okay, an update on the special session. So the governor of the state of Tennessee, Bill Lee, has been castigated a good bit for his desire for a special session in August. I have a couple of updates. One coming from the governor himself. Governor Bill Lee, in a message to the state of Tennessee earlier today, talked about some of the accomplishments that have been made over the past year, saying nothing is more important than the safety of Tennessee students and teachers, and we've made significant investments in that regard. Here's Governor Bill Lee speaking to the state.
Hey, Tennessee, I want to take a moment to talk specifically to school leaders across the state. Nothing is more important than making sure that Tennessee students and teachers return home from school safely every day. Since 2019, we have done a lot of work to secure schools, but we're not done yet. We have a unique opportunity this year to invest in strengthening school security, and we want to make sure that schools across Tennessee have the information they need to access these important resources. This year, together with the General Assembly, we passed our school safety bill, created two important grant programs. The first will provide funding to place a full-time armed SRO in each public school, and the second will provide critical funding to make physical security upgrades at public and non-public Tennessee schools. We want schools across Tennessee to know that they can apply for this funding now, and we hope that you'll encourage others in your district to do so as well. School leaders can visit tn.gov to learn more about how schools can use this funding and about important application deadlines. We can all play a part in keeping our schools safe, and we're excited to partner with you to further strengthen school security.
There's Governor Bill Lee talking about the $140 million for armed SROs in public schools, $54 million for security upgrades at public and non-public schools. I don't want to hear a word from Tennessee voters. Well, I do want to hear a word from you. I don't want to say that so aggressively. But I have a hard time taking Davidson County voters seriously on the issue of public school safety, in as much as, what's her name, Battle? This Battle person at the public school. Why are they refusing to allow school resource officers inside of elementary schools in Davidson County? What is the possible purpose for preventing them from entering the school? Sorry, I had to sneeze. Did not want to sneeze on you, so I cut the mic. Those of you on Talk TV, you watched me do it. So I have a difficult time understanding the rationale behind the Metro Nashville school system saying that they're not going to allow SROs, armed SROs, inside of their elementary schools. Well, why not? Why not? Can someone tell me? I believe it's because enough of their students have it, or enough of their parents have it ingrained in their heads that police are bad. Police are not bad. Uniformed officers are not bad things. Why are you teaching your children that uniformed officers are bad? You ought to be teaching them that they are good and to respect the authority of those uniformed officers. That does not mean that they're universally good. That does not mean that there aren't bad cops. Of course there are bad police officers. Point being is that the vast majority of the police officers are doing the right things the right way. And that if we had more uniformed SROs within the elementary school system in the Metro Nashville area, that maybe you would teach young people to have a healthy relationship with those police officers, as opposed to, sadly, the relationship that many of them have when they leave the school system, which is adversarial at best. I can't believe in the aftermath of the Covenant Schools in Davidson County, right? Now, I understand it's a private, it's a parochial, I mean, it's a church-based school. So it doesn't fall under the same umbrella as Metro Nashville, obviously. But how can you, with a straight face, demand more action? If you're in Davidson County, if you're a part of the Metro Nashville school system, how can you tell me with a straight face that you want more investment in school safety and you're not willing to invest in the very basics, and that is an SRO at your elementary school? I understand they're at the middle school. I understand they're at the high school. Why not the elementary school? We don't want to scare the kids. Why is a cop scary? A police officer in a given situation should be a comfort. Because there are radical leftists in charge of Davidson County schools. That's the answer. Paul, you're exactly right. The Metro Nashville school system is a bunch of radicals. Larry, the phone lines are open to my knowledge, 615-737-9986. All you have to do is give us a call. 1742 says they don't want guns in school. It's a gun-free zone. Ray says because the young kids will see that cops are good, they can't have that. You're right about that. And I do believe that Battle, I don't think she wants any of this. They made a compromise. Oh, we're going to have unarmed school people in the school system. What good would that do you if you're facing off with someone with a gun? So with that in mind, I got an update. I had a great conversation, and I'm not going to relate some of the off-the-record conversation that I had with the governor, but I'll say this. I know that the governor is much maligned on all of this. I understand that, and I have expressed my frustrations with the governor's office regarding this special session. But I can tell you a couple of things. One, I believe the governor believes it. I don't think it's playing politics in any way. I think he believes that something can get done to potentially move the ball and prevent future attacks like Covenant School. I don't think that is necessarily an order of protection based on the conversation that I had with his folks today. But I do believe that he's going to want to do something, and he's not lost hope that something can't be happening. I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just telling you where his mindset is. But I'm going to give you this and get your reaction to it on the other side. They are all in on it. A special session is happening in August. There is no way they're walking back from it based on the conversation that I had today. So expect an August special session, regardless, and whatever that might look like. And it doesn't mean order of protection laws, and it doesn't. I'll explain all of that to you in just a moment. It's 122 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief is in Franklin, and they want to see you. Within the sound of my voice, you need to get there if you're experiencing pain. What kind of pain, you might ask? Back pain? Yeah. Knee pain? Neck pain? Hip pain? Elbow pain? Can all be treated with no downtime and no needles and no pills constantly. Some of you are taking pills on a regular basis. Some of you take those pills because you're in pain on a regular basis. At the Dr. Gill Center, they've been helping people get to a pain-free life for over 30 years, and Dr. Gill hand-selected his staff, his team of professionals, experts all, that can assist you in getting pain-free right now with decompression therapy, red light therapy, their Class 5 laser system. It's all available for you, and your general chiropractic care. Go to the Dr. Gill Center today or give them a call. I encourage you to do so. 615-882-4838, 882-4838. It's the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. $126, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, I was just listening to Dan Mandis talk about Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, that he finds it intrusive. So did you happen to catch Mandis's, he had a couple of days off? Nashville's Morning News, of course. Did you happen to see where he was the captain of his ship during his time off?
No.
He operating a boat.
Where?
It was oh gosh, I should know the
Carolinas?
answer to this. No. This is down in Manchester, Tennessee, whatever lake it is down there.
Oh no.
He knows. He's got the connection over there. He's on a pontoon. I think he rented a pontoon, and he and Amy and Riker out on the pontoon boat. And he said this morning, I was listening, as I always do, to Nashville's Morning News, and he said that there's a quote now. Amy let him drive the boat.
That's about right. You were at their wedding.
Oh, I know. I
think that is all you needed to see.
I know who's normally driving the boat. Don't get me wrong. Larry's next in Clarksville. Hey, Larry.
Hey, Matt. Now, you got me cracked up talking about Dan ramming the dock. I don't know if you heard that
I
part.
did. It's Tim's Ford at Twin Creeks, and thank you, listeners, for alerting me. I missed that. And yes, he did say that Amy allowed him to drive the boat, and he took a great publicity photo of Dan with both hands on the wheel, taking care of the pontoon. And then he and I wanna tag Dan. You don't have to tell all the story. We could just stop with I drove the boat and it was fun. But he then proceeded to tell us that he crashed the boat into the dock.
I don't think I've ever met a more self-deprecating person in my entire lifetime than Dan Mandis.
He's lovable. I would hug him if he would let me, but he won't. So
no.
Well,
that could lead to physical violence.
Bell's never met me, so I mean, believe me, I know the crap I've done. Crap, I almost messed up. I was trying to take my little 52-footer out of Cuba Landing, and the winds were so strong. They were sending me right into another pier. And I had to put that thing in full reverse and full throttle to keep from hitting it. But on a pontoon, man, come on.
Well, anyway. I mean, if you've never driven, I will say in Dan's defense, if you are more of a novice at operating a boat, there's no brake. So you have to use reverse as the brake, and that's that can be tricky.
And yeah, thank you. And yes, you're right. And I gave him credit for it. But as far as Metro Nashville Public Schools, now my son, according to our ginger friend, I was born in 1680, but my son will be 37 in December. I took him out of Metro Nashville Public Schools after his sophomore year because there were 24 active gangs in that high school. And they had 6 police officers there at the time. It's out. Metro Nashville Public Schools are out of control. They just are. And my son ended up graduating a year early with a 4.0 average. And I was working a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs so that the word that we used on Pamela's show this morning, Mom, could stay home to be there. I mean, Metro Nashville Public, and it's not the teacher's fault, Matt. It's the administration.
Well, and you can only do so much with that you have incoming, and sadly, in a lot of these households, they're not getting the parental support that the young people need. Larry, I got to run. I appreciate your call. I appreciate your commentary. I'm just late. Thank you for your call today. They just don't. And that puts them at a deficit from the beginning. Those good teachers that want to make a difference and an impact in the kids' lives, if you don't have that level of parental support and input coming in, then you've got to make up for that in order to get good coming out. It's 1:32 on Super Talk. All right, it's summertime officially, and now the time has come for you to pull the trigger that you've been hearing me talk about. That is the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. It's August 4th through the 6th, and it's kicking off on Friday with the Wesley Mortgage Freedom Friday concert series. And they do so by thanking all of those who protect and serve. Wesley Mortgage is sponsoring free tickets to Friday's events to all military veterans, police officers, firefighters, first responders, and frontline heroes. And you can go to 997WTN.com and find out more about that. I think it's important that you get a 3-day package. I mean, this is a big-time event. It is the event of the summer in Nashville, August 4th through the 6th, downtown. The streets will come alive. Tickets are on sale right now for that 3-day event. I want you to get amped for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Go to MusicCityGP.com. That's MusicCityGP.com. Do not miss the track going through downtown Nashville. If you've not been a part of this yet, you need to make it a part of your summer. It's the party of the year. Grab your tickets before they're gone at MusicCityGP.com. That's MusicCityGP.com. Just had a conversation with Dan, who is the owner of Preborn, and I wanted Dan's going to be with us next week. Dan Steiner of Preborn, and we have only a week and a half or so left in the big campaign that Preborn is staging to save babies, and it is important that you become a part of this effort because Preborn is an organization after my own heart. They don't take any government assistance, they don't take any government funding, which is a good thing. But they do go into the areas most affected by the scourge of abortion. I mean, these are places where abortion is still fully legal up until the point of birth, like California, Illinois, and other places. But they also want you to recognize, and Dan reminded me earlier today, that here in the state of Tennessee, there are still abortions going on every day with mothers choosing the abortion pill as opposed to choosing life. And we believe with love and understanding and an ultrasound, that mamas will choose for themselves the path of life and whatever that means along with it, whether it is supporting and loving and nurturing the baby or offering the baby up for adoption, whatever that source might be. We want to choose life first and foremost. So to donate securely, go to preborn.com/Matt. That's preborn.com/Matt. Or dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Pound 250 and baby. $28. That's all it costs for an ultrasound to save a baby's life. Go to preborn.com/Matt. All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Matt Murphy Show continues. There is currently an update from the company, a private company that is currently helping in the search of the OceanGate Titan sub. We'll give you any pertinent details that become available to us during this update. But suffice it to say that today is an important day. You have the pilot of the vessel and 5 other people on the submersible. It is believed that there is active banging going on with a fair amount of regularity. They do not know if that banging is coming from the submersible or not, but it is, certainly potential that is where the lives are and that they are still alive, but they only have a limited amount of time, obviously, because of a limited amount of life support in that submersible at the presumably at the bottom of the ocean. More on that coming up in just a little bit. Representative Tim Burchett joins us on the Matt Murphy Show to update us the goings-on of Washington, D.C. And you're voting on anything good there? You're just getting out of votes, Tim.
Well, yeah, it's just another banner day in Washington, D.C., brother. It's just disgusting, actually, what's going on with this president and his son and just the slap on the wrist. I mean, I know people who've gotten speeding tickets have gotten more harassment out of officials in the Justice Department did Hunter Biden 5 years of investigations, and he's got a firearms charge and over $1 million in unpaid taxes. Now, what the heck do you got to do to have $1 million in taxes? And it's just, to me, the whole thing just stinks. And I tell you what, even stinks worse is the national media refuses to cover it. It's just the legacy media, the swamp. I mean, they're so intertwined. And had a meeting this morning, conservative group of folks. We meet on Wednesday mornings for breakfast, and some folks that are talking to us about the child trafficking they call it the sex trade. I call it the rape trade. I mean, these are just some awful, awful people, and they need to be taken off this earth. And shame on the Democrat Party for allowing our border to be porous and allowing these people to make, now it was told us today, about $14 million a day trafficking kids, because a lot of Americans apparently are pedophiles, and I hope they burn in hell. But outside of that, it's been a pretty good day.
It's a hell of an answer to an opening question, Tim. That's why I like having you on. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the performance? So let's unpack the Hunter stuff first. I mean, there is no clearer, greater juxtaposition, if you want to talk about the two-tier justice system, than how the Department of Justice acted, reacted, and responded to the relatively minor offense on the part of Donald Trump of holding on to what they deemed to be classified materials in Mar-a-Lago, and their response to that and their subsequent indictment of the former president, unprecedented action. You juxtapose that with this Hunter Biden nonsense, where they slow-walked it to the point that it was obvious they wanted it to go away, when it was never, ever going to go away. I believe what happened earlier in this week was by design. It was by design to give the media the opportunity not to have to talk about this. They haven't talked about the Hunter and Joe and Jim collusion. They haven't talked about the possibility of Ukrainian bribery payments, Chinese bribery payments, the evidence trail that's being created by the Oversight Committee, and they don't want to, so they're going to link the first piece with the second. They're going to say, well, all of that's put to bed because Hunter's been charged. That's old news. I expect that out of CNN any second now.
I agree with you. And either that or they'll say, the investigation's ongoing, we can't discuss it, and they'll hold back any information they have on any of it. And that's the old standard FBI procedure. And it's not so much your local FBIs, it's the Washington, basically the Washington intelligentsia group, I guess you'd call it, up here in the Justice Department. So, and I hate that our premier investigative agency is being painted with this brush, because they have many, many great members. It's kind of a thankless job a lot of those FBI agents have, and to be painted with this brush is disgusting to me.
But I believe, and I agree with you, Tim, but I believe if we were able to, and I'll never be able to prove this, but tell me if you think I'm right, if we were able to poll the field workers in the FBI all across America, I think they would agree with us that we need to blow up the Central Command and rebuild it in the spirit of what it was designed to do. I don't know that you can do that by reshuffling the chairs on the deck of the Titanic.
You can't. And it makes it worse up here. And in some of my own party, even. I know I'm violating Reagan's 12th commandment, or 11th commandment. No, 13th commandment. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah. I'm tired. I haven't anything to eat all day. But we've got so many Republicans that just refuse to go after this thing, and it just disgusts me. The whole thing does. We're in such bad shape. I can't tell you how deep this goes.
So where do we go from here? I mean, do you think James Comer, obviously the Oversight Committee will continue its work. There's more to be discovered on the Jim Hunter front, right?
And what I was going to before, and I lost my train of thought for a second, was, we talk about defunding the Justice Department. Let me tell you how this bunch is going to do it. They're going to say they're going to cut whatever. They're trying to build a new FBI headquarters, and it will be larger than the Pentagon, if you can imagine that. And as I was told by an old timer around Knox County long time before I was mayor, the school system bought a huge building, the Andrew Johnson Towers, across the street, and they said, "What are they going to do with that building?" And they said they're going to fill it. And that's exactly what they'll do with these FBI headquarters. But the Republicans are going to say, "Oh, we're going to cut that from your budget. Look at that. We just cut $300 million or $500 million or whatever from your budget." No, they didn't. That would have been new money. You got to go into their existing accounts and start chopping them off. And you got to be specific, because if you don't, they'll start cutting things like this White House will do if we ever have a shutdown. They'll start cutting veterans, and they'll start cutting seniors, the most vulnerable. And that's exactly what because they won't do anything to the top people. They'll just do it to your low.
Representative Tim Burchett with us this afternoon, joining us for a few moments talking about the actions in Washington, D.C. I don't know if I lost you there or not, Tim, but hopefully you're back. You there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. You're loud and clear. So on the Hunter Biden front with regard to his tax evasion, I suppose that there's not a lot Republicans can do in that regard. I mean, the Department of Justice is kind of in the lead, and that baby seems to be to bed. All we can do is work on the other side of things.
Well, there's still the question of what he did to get $1 million
right?
in debt. Yeah, and why can't he pay child support on that kid that he fathered with the stripper is another question.
That Joe Biden, by the way, regularly ignores when he talks about his grandkids. Anyway.
Yeah, which is pretty disgusting. The whole there's a lot going on in that group that eventually will come out, but it'll probably be a long time after he's out of the White House. But yeah, I agree. It's just Hunter Biden's a bad seed, but there's so much more though out there. This is almost minor compared to what other things are out there. The money flowing in from China, the millions of dollars, the 20+ bank accounts and LLCs that were formed, and they're going to quickly say, well, what about Trump's kids, the millions they got from wherever? Well, you know what? They were selling a bunch of ties and a bunch of junk made in sweatshops in China. That's their business. I don't approve of it. I don't buy their junk, but still, they were selling a product. What was Hunter Biden selling? He was selling influence and access to the big guy, as they called him. And poor old Hunter, in some of these documents, I mean, they basically just say he's the useful idiot. They talk about him not being very smart, and they'll just use him to get to the old man, and that's what they did. And it's out there, and it's what's disgusting is the FBI makes us view these things in a SCIF in a confidential area, and it's not confidential documents. Those should be open to the public. You should be able to get them. You should be able to pull them up on your computer at home and read everything that we've read. But due to the FBI overstepping their bounds, and we don't have the guts to clip them in our existing committee system, so we've got to have some leadership up here in our party, and we've got to start going after them and just stop with the foolishness.
So what's next for oversight? I mean, we had Chuck Grassley on the Senate side bring up these audio recordings. It seems to me the American people would like to hear those. I bet you would like to hear those.
I would like to hear them, but I didn't see. That's interesting that he brought those up. He was reading an unredacted, and redacted means what they do is you've seen the things where they just white out everything that they don't want you to find, maybe an informant, maybe some confidential stuff, whatever, secrets, espionage kind of stuff. So, but in his unredacted version, it had it in there. In the version that I read, it did not have it. So, and I don't know if they exist or if they don't. And so I don't really care if they do or they don't anyway, because what we've got now is if there's enough there that to send somebody to the penitentiary for a long time. And the IRS should be looking at this, wondering where this money is and why no taxes were paid on it. Because I guarantee you that when you set up that many, it was so sloppily done that I could figure it out. That there's a money trail there, and there's a lot of disappearing cash.
I want to ask you about two. Well, they're related subjects, and let's put them together. One, I know that you're on what? Oversight, foreign affairs, and trans. Is that right? Transportation. I should be clear. I got to be clear. Transport. Yeah, I got to be clear nowadays. I used to be able to call it that and get away with it. So I know you're not on judiciary, but John Durham is testifying before Congress. Have you had any opportunity to hear some of what he's talking about? Because this applies to another question that I want to ask you. Is that your thoughts on these 20 Republicans that voted against the censure of Adam Schiff, who repeated the lie over and over and over again that John Durham exposed? He's now testifying before the Congress, and we can't even get a censure, and 20 Republicans say no. What is Thomas Massey doing up there?
Well, actually, Massey is probably the one who has a defensible reason, because he is in there. It put a fine on it. And he says that they're not allowed to fine, and he has a lawsuit currently with Speaker Pelosi over him being fined for not wearing a mask on the House floor. So he was in the middle of a lawsuit for that. So I can understand him, but the 19 others, a little bit of question there. But they're claiming it was because there's a fine on there, and they don't think it's constitutional. And so they're going to get an opportunity to correct that today or tomorrow, I believe.
Will they present another censure without a fine? Is that what you're saying?
I believe that. Yeah, that's what they'll do. And then let's see what happens.
And as far as Durham goes, I mean, this is all information that we know, right? Durham is confirming that which we have known for a long time, that all of this came from Hillary Clinton, was made up. The FBI knew much of it was made up along the way, yet they still used this information to get FISA warrants and violate civil rights of American citizens.
Absolutely. That's all they did. They used it to go after Trump and other American citizens, and it's incorrect, and we need to redo the whole FISA thing or just do away with it completely.
Tim, in the last couple of minutes that we have, Congressman Tim Burchett with us, by the way, I know this isn't true, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway and see how you react to it. But somebody told me, they got to be lying, that Tim Burchett is over the UFO investigation in Congress. Is that true?
I'm the committee. I am actually, because I've called it out for years. You know, they issue again these redacted reports, and it just keeps coming more and more. And Chairman Comer and Speaker McCarthy both put me on it, and so because I've been calling them out. We've got these reports. We've got the intelligence, the so-called Congressional Intelligence Committee. They had one of their open meetings that all us unwashed people could view, and I was the only congressman that showed up for it. It was over the UFO issue, and they had these two guys from the Pentagon overseeing it. Honestly, they couldn't even spell UFO, and they were showing this one video, and they couldn't stop the video. We're the most technologically advanced country in the world. Isabel Burchett, my 16-year-old daughter, could have stopped that video, and Adam Schiff, oddly enough, was the person who asked the best question. He said, "What exactly am I looking at?" And they couldn't tell him if it was a shadow off the canopy or some dot that was flying by, and they filmed it with a cell phone. Now we have what's called. I would encourage your listeners to look at the Tic Tac, not TikTok, but Tic Tac, like the candy, Tic Tac videos. Just Google it. It's Navy pilots that are following some sort of craft, and it's pretty telling. And those people were not even allowed to testify to me. We had one of the pilots in the audience, and they wouldn't even let him come in. But he had one of the members of the press gave him some press credentials so he could come in. So this thing is just a complete and the American public just keep getting hosed on it. Now the Pentagon's taking interest in it because they smell dollars that they could. And all I'm asking is just release your files. Transparency. You all in the media understand that. Transparency. Just put out what's out there and let the American public decide. I'm so sick of this stuff. They won't even release the Kennedy files on the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and there's nothing, and nobody's left alive that's in any of the files.
I know we got a scoop, but real quick, Tim, where are you on the there's a couple of whistleblowers that are claiming that there are alien craft in American. What do you make of that?
The guy, the last one, the guy that everybody's talking about, he is a decorated. He's a decorated veteran. It doesn't mean much in Washington D.C., but I'll tell you what, in Tennessee it means a lot. And the guy has a very compelling story to tell, and they check out the stuff he says in the meetings that he's in. Check out with when these briefings were going on. I've talked to too many people that have seen too much. It's in the Bible. Ezekiel saw the wheel. If you think that we are the best that God can do, you don't think much of God, because the vastness of God's universe. Every night I go out and take my dogs out to go to the bathroom, usually 4 a.m. when they could have gone like at 10 o'clock when I go to bed or something. But no, they got to go at 4 o'clock. So I'm out there. I'm looking at the stars. And literally the light from those stars left there before the time of Christ, some of those. That's how vast God's universe is. We are not, I don't think we're alone. I think there's something else out there. I don't know what it is, but these craft that I've seen photos, I've seen videos. I've been in, I can't tell everything, but there's more to this thing than we're being led to believe.
Great stuff as always, Tim Burchett, our good friend and guest. Thank you, Tim, for doing the hard work, and thank you for trying to get the best out of Washington,
Don't get
D.C.
them, brother. Don't trust government. Don't trust government.
Not even you. I don't. Thank you, Tim.
No. Verify. Reagan said trust but verify.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. There's Representative Tim Burchett for a good 20 minutes or so. It's 1:54 on Super Talk. Friends, the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project is an organization and a project that is so near and dear to my heart. And I want to speak from the heart for a moment. I mean, I ask you to engage in a couple of charities on a regular basis here on the Matt Murphy Show. And the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project is one that is it's such a worthwhile endeavor. Let's talk about it for a moment, because Charlie and David Corlew, his longtime manager, put this project together in their heads about 2014. It is a way to vet organizations that do specific things to help veterans and heroes reintegrate from service to civilian life. And there are a number of specialty organizations that can assist, for example, with physical disability, like the loss of limbs, for example, and the construction of homes in the event of the loss of your legs, that you have to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. That's just one aspect. The mental aspect is another specialty aspect. All of these charities can get confusing. If you give to the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project, they get your money without any overhead to the right places to help our soldiers that mean so much to our community and to our way of life and to our country. Won't you give today? Go to the CharlieDanielsJourneyHomeProject.org. The CharlieDanielsJourneyHomeProject.org. The 4th of July or Independence Day is upon us, and I invite you to give to those who ensure our freedom and independence. The CharlieDanielsJourneyHomeProject.org.
It is 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 81 degrees, a cloudy day. We got thunderstorms likely. They may be during your drive home this afternoon. Full weather forecast in just a couple of minutes. The search for the Titan intensifying with reports of what was described as banging noises below the surface reported late yesterday and into today. The dwindling oxygen supply inside the missing submersible also only had limited rations of food and water, ratcheting up pressure on the search effort. U.S. Coast Guard Captain Jamie Frederick this afternoon was asked by a reporter when he thought they would call off the search. Here's what the captain said.
We're not there yet. But if we continue to search, potentially we could be at that point. But again, we're not there yet. And that's a discussion that we will have with the family long before I'm going to discuss that here publicly.
And at this point, those 5 have around an estimated 15 hours of oxygen left. And right now in Tennessee, Governor Lee has launched the $200 million school safety grants application process.
Police departments and schools across the state have until October 27th to apply for money to put at least one SRO in every public school and make physical security improvements. Local law enforcement agencies can apply for up to $75,000 per year for SROs. The grant provides $40 million for public schools and $14 million for private schools for things like improved physical security, emergency operations planning, violence prevention programs, conflict resolution, and safety training for staff members. That $40 million is a one-time deal. Again, the deadline to apply for schools is October 27th. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And staying here in Tennessee, Covenant Manifesto News, the family of Michael Hill, the custodian who was killed in the tragic Covenant school shooting, has now filed the paperwork requesting the shooter's writings to not be released. The daughter of Hill wrote, quote, "We are asking that the writings of the shooter not be released to anyone for whatever self-serving, gratifying purpose they feel they may gain from viewing any of these products." She added that it, quote, "sickens us to have to write a letter to explain why someone who chose to be voiceless does not deserve to be heard." A judge is expected to decide on July 12th whether or not the shooter's writings will be released to the public. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for the Tennessee Men's Clinic. The Tennessee Men's Clinic, their foundational principle is about men's health. And the fact that no other clinic up until their creation had focused specifically and solely on the health of men. We know at the Tennessee Men's Clinic how you guys think, because they're guys that are at the clinic. And they understand that you avoid your numbers and maybe you're low on energy, but you just feel like that's the way it goes. Perhaps you've lost enthusiasm in the bedroom activity area. If that is the case, you need to get over to the clinic. And really, if a loss of energy is on your mind, it's weighing on you. If you don't really have any motivation to get to the gym, do exercise, do yard work or whatever, go to the Tennessee Men's Clinic, particularly if you're in your 40s or 50s, and see if they can't get you back to life. It is oftentimes as simple as one of those prescriptions for success that I talk about, because they have the tools in their arsenals to help with low T issues or anything else that might be affecting you. So, Tennessee Men's Clinic, 2 locations to serve you. One is right in Nashville, the other in Franklin. I encourage you to give them a call, or better yet, go and check them out a little bit further at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. That's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Or better yet, call them. Schedule an appointment today. Tell them I sent you. 615-208-9090. 208-9090. Hello. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, hour number 3 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're on all of your applications, your streaming platforms, wherever you are. Just type in those words, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You'll get to us. We're also up and running on Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and the chat feature on Talk TV, brought to you by F&M Bank. The F&M Bank chat line is up, running, and available. It's 208. Good afternoon. No Cameron Smith. I forgot about that until this very moment, as Cameron is off this week. Speaking of being off, I'm here tomorrow. I know we weren't here on Monday because of a holiday. I am out on Friday. I've got some business that I have to attend to, some late-breaking business that I have to attend to out of town. And so that's going to put me, it's going to not only put me out of here on Friday. My apologies to you. We'll have Friday on Thursday, though. Don't you worry about that. But also puts me out of town for the Ally 400, which is happening this weekend. I'm kind of bummed about all of that. So Cameron's loss is your gain. If you want to opine on the issues of the day, 615-737-9986. We're going to open the phones up to any and all comers as we wind our way through an afternoon and hand off to the Drive with Brian Wilson coming up in less than an hour from now. Are any of you fascinated with the? I'm becoming a little bit fascinated with this search for the submersible. And I typically don't fall prey to these things, but this is a movie, and depending on the outcome here, it could be an absolute tragedy, or it could be a drama filled with a lot of intrigue and a lot of tension, and ultimately ending with a positive result. But I'm looking more into this submersible, and I'll tell you, I take risks in life. Is Mac Maury back there? Matt, I want to ask Maury. I know Bel K wouldn't do it. Bel K barely gets out of his bedroom. Would you have gone down on this thing? I mean, it's hard. This is a hard question, and probably an unfair question because of what we're watching.
Well, yeah, hindsight.
You know, if I asked you the question 2 weeks ago, hey, would you go down? Yeah, sure, why not? You know? Oh, yeah, tourist submersible. But
have you not operated by a game controller? Yeah, then I'm in.
I don't know why that bothers. You know why that bothers me? Because I know how many times I've played PlayStation and my game controller's not working.
Yeah, exactly. You're sitting there, hey, I'm lagging.
No, you didn't beat me. I lost because of the stupid controller, and then you throw it. I don't know if have you done a dive? Pardon me, a dive into. It didn't have any seats on it.
Yep. They're just all sitting on the floor.
They're cross-legged on the floor, and there's one toilet, just in case somebody has a little bit of an accident. And that toilet's really not designed for you to use it, but it is a just-in-case kind of toilet. $250,000 to do this.
For $250,000, you better have me a nice comfy seat.
The Ocean Gate Expeditions operation last year opened up to a team at CBS. and they showed them the inside of the submersible that is used to visit the Titanic wreckage. I don't know. The Titanic is a pretty good subject in and of itself. And I think the tie to the Titanic is making interest in what's going on the ocean's floor even more extreme. I'll ask you two a question. If I told you that I'm going to give you a salary or a stipend or a pension, and you are to study one subject for the next 2 years, what would the subject be? I believe with McMurray it's going to be something sports related, but I don't know. Like one subject, a moment in history, a time. And I think the Titanic would be up there for a lot of people. There's a lot of intrigue going on with the Titanic. I mean, the fact that it was its maiden voyage, there's a class system that went on. Far more third-class passengers than first-class passengers died, though many of the first-class passengers chose to go down with the ship because that's what gentlemen did. You allow the women and children to get on board of the lifeboats. They don't have enough lifeboats. So many of the clues that were missed in order to avoid the whole thing. Yeah. Hindsight. I mean, it's just a fascinating subject.
It's an interesting question, too. It's a really good question.
Like if I'm giving you a salary to study one specific thing, what would you do?
Yeah, if it wasn't sports related, it would be honestly like World War II.
Yeah, see, World War II would be a good one.
A good one, man.
I got a little bit of the bug. I've always had an interest in history. And obviously, growing up in Georgia and living in Alabama, now in Tennessee, Civil War history gets brought up quite a bit. But when I went to Gettysburg, and you
loved that trip.
Oh my God! You walk the battlefield, and you can hear the cries of man and gunfire. I mean, you just feel it in your bones. You can stand on one of those hills, and you're overlooking the valley, and you see the McDonald's in the back. You're right. You see it. And you see the other buildings that are so at least in my mind, those McDonald's just start disappearing, and the modern stuff and the modern roads, and you can
it's like a fading.
I got a PhD in.
Okay, I think Bell missed the radio.
My
I don't know. The Titanic go along with that. No chairs. News. The Titanic resides. I don't think it gets mentioned enough how incredible it is that Ballard found the thing to begin with. I mean, how amazing. The ocean is a really, really, really big place.
And the technology that he was using back then is nothing like it is now. And they're having trouble finding this small sub. Mm-hmm. And it's 1,000 times better than it used to be in terms of search.
What percentage of our ocean do you think is
unmapped?
Unobserved, unexplored.
95%.
Yeah.
It says easily 80, but there's other numbers that show more like 90.
I mean, the vast majority of any knowledge that we have about our oceans are right around the coastlines, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
So, you get to 1 or 2 mile territory. I mean, and then the fact that there's creatures that live down there. And when I was a kid and I saw a cartoon version of that fish that has the luminous bulb.
Oh my gosh.
Danglerfish.
Dangled in front of it.
Anglerfish.
And then eventually they did what was the movie? Finding Elmo, Finding Emo.
Finding Nemo.
Nemo.
Yes.
They had a version of that fish.
Finding Emo Phillips.
And that fish exists.
Yes.
And that's and don't at me, bro, when I say this, but that is incredible godly evolution occurring, right? I mean, that fish adapted to its environment and recognized in order to attract a food source at a depth of 10,000 feet, you better have a reason for that. I mean, it's just incredible. All of that's incredible. Ocean floor is as mysterious as space, outer space.
Ooh.
And it's right here.
Yeah, you're right.
Actually, it's
that's a good way to
considered
think about
more mysterious than outer space. We've done more exploration in space than we have at the bottom of the oceans.
And it's right here. And there's stuff down there, too.
Yeah,
right?
I guess we have. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, somewhere, what's her name is down there on the ocean floor? Amelia Earhart? So that's what you get when you... I'm sure she asked for directions, right? I mean, if she was a guy, the guy would never ask for direction. I mean, while we're on the subject, I was looking the other day. Did you know? Here's a little point of trivia for you. Do you know Charles Lindbergh, Spirit of St. Louis, the first solo transcontinental flight from North America to Paris?
Yeah, I know about this. Yeah,
you know about this.
Yes.
Do you know what he looked at when he looked forward in the Spirit of St. Louis? There was no window. There was a telescope. He had he operated by instruments. He could look to either side. There were windows on either side of the plane, but looking forward, he did not. He saw there was nothing. Go look at a mock-up of the cockpit of that plane, and all he had was a little periscope that he would look through.
It was transoceanic, too.
Whatever.
But they're already starting.
What did I say?
You said transcontinental.
Well, why don't y'all come on board and correct me live and in person? I'd love to hear from you. 218 Super Talk. Transcontinental would be from
across the continent.
Shut up. I hate all of you. I mean, have you seen? Are you looking at it now?
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Fascinating.
And originally, I don't think originally he was going to do the telescope or the periscope thing. That kind of came like, hey, I'd really like to be able to look in front of me. And, we can get you a periscope. Because they needed the fuel up there. The fuel was in front of him. He wanted the fuel in front of him and because it was the most weight. And in case, this is what I read, in case he crashed, he didn't want all of that landing on top of him. I guess it was a little bit safer if that hit first and then he hit second. I think that's the reason that he put all the
Did you know that Norman Schwarzkopf's father was the man who led the investigation into the kidnapping of the Lindbergh child?
Did not.
Yeah.
I did not. That was kind of shady, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of suspicion that Charles did it himself and pulled a cover up, that he accidentally dropped the kid. And
then that guy was just wrong place, wrong time?
Yeah.
Because that guy couldn't read or write, and I read a book about that years
his
and years
English
ago.
was poor.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's turn back to your telephone calls in this free-for-all 2 o'clock hour. Myrtle is in Dixon County. Hello, Miss Myrtle. How are you?
Fine, Matt. I'm hoping the judge rules against the release of that manifesto because the girl's just plain crazy, and, there's no understanding crazy, so why do we need to try to understand crazy? All it's going to do is spread venom and monkey see, monkey do. It's always some idiot wanting to one-up to the last one.
Well, you're going to have that type of thing regardless. I mean, if we subscribe it to evil, then we know that there will be evil in the world. We are a fallen human beings, all of us. And so that evil will exist exterior to whether or not they release this manifesto. I believe that. The answer that I would give you, and I understand the specifics of not wanting to release it, but I would say to you that a government that is allowed to shield the general public from information like this will use that ability to their own advantage. And we need to remain very steadfast that we protect our open records, because if we start allowing nips and bites away from the Open Records Act in the state of Tennessee, and the ability of the public to view this information, the government's going to take full advantage and not allow you to see information that you ought to be able to see. Does that make sense?
Well, that's the most thorough and best thing I've heard.
I mean, so I understand that it's painful, and I understand that it is not without risk that this information be made available. And obviously there's going to be redactions regardless. And Myrtle, thank you for the call. I've got to scoot along. I would say a redacted, quote, manifesto is the best case scenario, because it keeps the government in check with regard to keeping its secrets, but at the same time attempts to protect the family as best you can. I mean, obviously, if any of this gets released regarding the Metro Nashville Police Department investigation concerning the manifesto, they're not releasing crime scene photos necessarily. They're not releasing diagrams of the building. But motivation, mindset, rantings of a crazy person, I've long said it's more to me about protecting the Open Records Act than anything, because I don't think anyone's going to get satisfaction out of the manifesto. I don't believe that the manifesto is going to give us the golden key to understanding the mind of a crazy person willing to kill 9-year-old children and other people. Not for a moment. Gracie will be first up next. Jerry and Sarah. It's 2:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. United Structural Systems wants to help you with your home repairs when it comes to the foundation of your home or the waterproofing of your home. You know, you don't want to call USS. You don't. You don't want to call USS because that means that you've noticed some of the telltale signs. You don't want to call USS because maybe you've seen some walls bowing or doors or windows sticking. You don't want to call them when you smell the musty odors, or you know that there's cracks in the basement floor, or you see that the hardwood floors are cupping. You don't want to call USS because that means that you have a foundation or a waterproofing issue, or at least potentially. But here's why you call. You call for peace of mind because sometimes USS says, hey, you're all good. Now, this is a problem or that's a problem, but for the most part, you're okay from a foundational standpoint. And that is peace of mind that you need. But better peace of mind is them telling you, yes, we can deal with it, we can fix it, and now the home is right as rain for you and even future home owners. That problem's not going away, but the peace of mind can be yours with a call that I know you don't want to make, but you need to make. USS. When you make the call the best. Call USS 615-488-7855, 488-7855, or USSTN.com, USSTN.com.
Learning more about the search and rescue mission of the Titans, some new legislation aimed towards regulating artificial intelligence, and some good news for a Tennessee police officer. Those stories and more coming up. 2:30. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mac Morey. 2:26. Can you imagine? It's hard to imagine being on that submersible. If we suppose that they are alive, not knowing the lack of knowledge about what is going on around them. Will they be saved? Will people come in time? You know that your time is finite. I mean, it's like it's a microcosm of life almost, you know. You know your time is finite.
Mm-hmm.
You know you got it. I mean, either I mean, it really is a religious allegory if you think about it. You know, there's a salvation, whether you get to it or not. I guess it's less dependent on you and more dependent on other people. But I mean, just being there, 5 people.
It's
one of them's gassy.
It's kind of comparable to Apollo 13, except those guys were trained and had it drilled into them how to unemotionally handle problems. And it's like, you know, you hear it in Lovell's voice when he first contacts Houston and he says, Houston, we've had a problem. He's almost emotionless when he says it.
That's right. It's a matter of fact.
And to them, it's like, okay, we're dealing with this. What are the steps? And if you don't have that training, you're just down there going, what do I do?
Or just screaming and using oxygen or banging on the side of the ship. That's still, you know, Apollo 13 was a great movie, if you've not seen it. But inside of that movie is one of my all-time top 10 scenes, and you know what I'm talking about. It is the it is the spirit of American ingenuity.
Oh, yeah. I mean, carbon dioxide filters.
Built down to its essence with the carbon dioxide filter scene, where they literally have to fit a square peg into a round hole, and they know it. And the team of engineers are down there on the ground, and they realize that one filter, I guess the capsule, the filter and the main component in the capsule are different. One's square and one's round.
Right.
And they need a new carbon dioxide filter, and they need to retrofit it to go back into one area and hold up, I guess in the capsule is where they want to hold up. And the guy goes and walks into a room. If you've not seen it, if you've seen it, it gives me chill bumps. He walks in a room and he dumps a bunch of crap on the table.
Which is all stuff they have on the ship with them.
He says, that's what they've got up there. Figure it out.
We got to make this fit that.
Yep.
With only that.
With this. That has to fit that. And literally it starts with like them saying, hey, you got your clipboard? Okay, tear off a piece of the clipboard right over there at the top. We need that for later. Put that aside. I mean, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And hopefully we will use that spirit of American ingenuity to our advantage this time around as well.
Did you know both of Rob's parents were in that movie? I mean, Ron's.
Ron Howard's?
Yeah.
I did not.
His mother played Lovell's mother, and his father played the priest that was at the house when they were on watch to see if they made it back.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And, of course, his brother was in it, too. He played one of the...
Oh, yeah. Clint.
Clint's in everything Ron does.
Oh, man. But Clint has that... I mean, you're never going to give Clint a big part in any film. Clint...
Not a leading man.
Just not... wasn't he in the... was he the guy in The Water Boys? I'm not a handsome man. I was not blessed. I think he is.
Is that him?
Is that Waterboy? I was not blessed with good looks or skills of any kind. There's a scene in some movie where Clint Howard's doing all that. It's pretty funny.
Yeah,
Gracie.
Yeah, he's in that.
Okay, Gracie is next. Gracie, thank you. Gracie, oh, gosh. Here's what I got to do, Gracie. I'm sorry. Gracie, I get yelled at if I don't do it this way. So Gracie, Jerry, and Sarah, hang in there. We'll get to the last 30 minutes of the Murphy Show following this very important few minutes with Mac Morey in the newsroom. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
"31 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. You've got storms expected later tonight. Could be during your drive home. Full weather forecast headed your way in about 2 minutes. We're learning today that more noises are being heard in the water where growing resources are searching for the 5 aboard the Titan submersible near the Titanic wreck. Alex Stone reports.
More noises that sound like banging have been heard today by a submarine hunter aircraft, but the source of the noises isn't known. Captain Jamie Frederick says they don't want to give the families false hope. The noises, while they are being investigated, could be coming from boats in the area, sea life, or metal moving in the currents from the Titanic wreck site.
We don't know what they are. To be frank with you, the P3 detected noises. That's why they're up there. That's why they're doing what they're doing. That's why they put sonar buoys in the water.
Other than the noises, there have been no other potential signs of the group.
And at this point, those 5 on board have around 15 hours of oxygen left. And some new steps to regulate artificial intelligence were just announced today. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says Congress must get a handle on the rapidly evolving technology. Lindsay Watts.
Science and tech experts have made dire warnings about AI, even that it may lead to human extinction. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says lawmakers are starting from scratch to regulate it and must act quickly.
But with AI, we cannot be ostriches sticking our heads in the sand.
Schumer unveiling a framework to guide legislation, and he's urging Congress to start drafting regulatory proposals. Top concerns surrounding AI include misinformation, bias, job displacement, and consumer privacy.
And right now in Murfreesboro, the police officer run over by a car speeding away from a traffic stop last night has been released from the hospital. A news release says the officer is a little sore but doing well. Meanwhile, the driver and passengers have all been identified and charges are pending. Murfreesboro Police is being assisted by the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office and Highway Patrol to find the driver and 2 passengers who got out of the car on I-24 near the Joe B. Jackson Walmart. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you for joining us either on the radio, on your streaming platform, or on Talk TV. Hey, tell your boy in there to stop making wild accusations about folks stealing other folks' property. That's just ridiculous. I don't appreciate that.
What did you take?
I didn't take anything.
You took something.
Actually, no, and I'll, if you want something, I'm a magician and I can make something disappear. Just put it in a radio station fridge.
Oh, yeah.
And then there it goes. Mason is missing a Monster energy drink for anyone around the station that might have seen it. If you're listening in your cubbyhole or cubicle, just look around, look about.
I didn't know I was drinking your Monster energy.
I'm trying to stay away from them there, Mace.
No, you kind of have to now.
Nah, well, see, here's the thing. I talked to my girl today. Well, I'll tell you more about that. All right. But yeah, that's you can have these, but they're not advised because study after study shows, and by these I held up a Mountain Dew Zero. Study after study shows that despite the fact that it has 0 calories, that the artificial sweetener that goes into like a Mountain Dew Zero actually creates cravings. And the goal is to reduce cravings if you're trying to lose a little weight. All right, Gracie's been holding, wants to talk about the Titanic, which is one of my favorite subjects. Hello, Gracie.
Hey, how are you?
I'm wonderful. I hope you are.
I'm wonderful.
Good.
Absolutely.
Hey, by the way, I think you broke my internet.
How so?
Well, not really, but if I'm not responding.
What did I do?
Well, you had a couple of emails that I wanted to respond to, but I can't because my email broke. I don't know why it broke, and I have to send it off to IT now because I can't fix it. So if I'm not responding, that's the reason, okay?
It's okay. I never look at email except to send it.
Well, good. Well, in that case, I responded to every one of them.
Okay.
What's up? What's on your mind?
Well, two things. I called to talk about the Titan submersible, but I wanted to respond to your early caller in regards to releasing the manifesto. I think that this little creative thing that they've come up with to call the evidence private property, if they are successful in that, we will have cracked the door open for some creative criminal defense attorney to be able to squash evidence in criminal cases because it's private property. So every inch leads to the next. We have to be careful where we're going with it.
Well, that's right. And I don't know that anyone is going to get satisfaction out of this manifesto, portions of it being released to the public. For me, it is the principle, the basic principle, and I think for you too, Gracie, that government must operate in the open, and there must be a real, compelling, and robust reason to keep information from the public. And while I am sensitive to the feelings of our community, and particularly the parents of the Covenant School, feelings are not a justifiable reason to keep information from the public.
Feelings cannot override facts. And the fact is, we need to know the genesis of this.
Because as I used as an example, Mohammed Atta left papers in his automobile when he left his automobile and got on an airplane that eventually, quote unquote, landed in New York City, right? If you know what I'm saying.
Right.
And using the same premise, the families of those killed on 9/11 could argue that none of that should be released to the public. I mean, it is endless the amount that the government could use this as precedent to justify shielding information from the media or the public, and I think that's wrong.
Right.
So
absolutely.
All right, what about the Titan?
The Titan. Well, if you recall back in 1988, April of 88, I believe it was, Hawaiian Airlines had a mid-air structural disintegration of a plane. And what it came to be after the autopsy of the plane was done was the pressurized air inside the cabin versus the negative air pressure outside of the plane, flexing the skin of the plane so many times caused a structural failure.
Mm-hmm. Is this the one? Is this the one? Is a pretty famous photo of it on the ground with a bunch of the like a big old section of the fuse, and I think only one person died. It was a flight attendant that got sucked out.
She was sucked out. Yeah. And the only thing that kept the nose from falling off the plane, that kept the cockpit attached to the plane, was the skin. When they got into the autopsy of the plane, the structural integrity of the aircraft was damaged so bad that the skin was the only thing that held the nose on.
So, see, you're speaking my language now. So, I think that someone along the way warned this guy that the multiple dives that they're doing could be hurting the bone integrity. I'm just using that phraseology so people understand what I'm saying.
Correct. David Lockridge, the Ocean Gate director, was fired for actually raising that issue back in 2018.
And if I remember the report correctly, didn't he advise they needed to do some sort of X-ray of the submersible? And then he was told, well, we don't have X-rays that can get all the way through it, so you're fired. Something like that.
Basically, yeah, that was basically the summation of it. But his concern was that the structural integrity needed to have some safety tests from independent inspectors, and the company apparently wasn't willing to go through all that.
So you think they're gone?
I certainly hope not, but I think that's a very plausible case scenario.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the one thing I would have said no hope, except for these sounds, but the sounds are odd in and of themselves. And in as much, I mean, if you and I were on the floor of the ocean, 2.4 miles beneath the surface, I'd be beating on the structure of that thing as much as I could to get attention. Although, I mean, maybe they feel like they can. I don't know. I don't know what all the dynamics are, but that noise at least is giving some folks some hope that the five are still alive.
Right.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's hope so.
All right,
we
Grace.
got 15 hours left to go.
I know it. And yeah, by tomorrow, I mean, it's almost it's kind of a fait accompli by tomorrow. Jerry is next in Nashville as we wind our way to the drive with Brian Wilson. Hey, Jerry, how are you this afternoon?
How you doing there, Mr. McMorey?
I'm doing well,
I can't sing
Jerry.
your name like I can't sing your name like Pamela Fair, or I would, but she's pretty good with it.
Yeah, well, you want me to say hello to McMorey for you?
Oh, I thought you were McMorey. Sorry.
No, this is Matt Murphy. I know.
Oh, Murphy, I'm sorry, sir.
No, it's all good. You know what? Most people believe that McMorey should be hosting this show, Jerry, so it's okay.
You hit on the topic earlier that I spent about a year studying just for fun up in Philly at the Academy of Natural Sciences, the anglerfish. And you were talking about its bioluminescent lure, which is actually called the ESCA, E-S-C-A. They live down about 1,000 meters to 2,000 meters. They're mainly solitary. They can swallow fish twice their size. They grow up to they can go as far as 4 feet long, but usually the average is 6 inches. And they are really ugly. The reason I got into them, I was researching the frogfish, which can actually walk on 4 fins on the bottom of the ocean or on land. And Aristotle actually talks about the frogfish in his book on biology. That's how I got into the anglerfish. The anglerfish, you know what makes their lure glow?
No clue.
It's a bioluminescent bacteria, and it's a symbiotic relationship. So the fish attracts the bacteria in its antenna at the end of its lure, and in exchange, the bacteria get protection from getting eaten by other sea creatures. And they're not exactly sure how it gets into the lure or what age it starts to get in there, but that is what basically is going on there with their lure, and that's how they attract fish. They can't swim fast. They just stay there and wait.
So the fish attracts underwater fireflies.
Yeah, basically.
The underwater fireflies get put in a little jar.
That's a bulb.
That's called. I'm just completing. I'm just completing the. So yeah, the little bulb. So it's like the fish is me at the age of 9 catching fireflies and putting the fireflies, and then the fireflies act as a little bulb which attracts bigger fish. So the question is, do those little bacteria then die there? Or are they eventually released? Or
No, what happens, another fish can come by and try to grab it, and then it gets sucked into the mouth, which is twice as big as its body, by the anglerfish. And there's 170 species of anglerfish, minimum. They're still finding new ones all the time.
This is a fascinating subject. I mean, for
and
me.
their skin is translucent. They have no pigmentation in their body because there's no light past 800 feet down. And
So
they
you
live
can,
like a couple thousand feet
So you
down.
can see their organs and all their ugly parts.
Everything. They've done CAT scans on them, and like their skeleton, the mouth is bigger than their body. It's ginormous.
Well, I can tell people that it's called an angler fish.
Yeah, that's the common name. There's a Latin name too, but you don't need to know that.
Well, that's going to be my new nickname because when people see me naked, they think I'm translucent too.
But wait, the names will blow your mind of the fish. Sea devil. They have like the wolf trap, the pugnacious dreamer, the tyrannical toad, and there's like even crazier ones than that. But that's just a few. And they're bioluminescent. There's very few animals that are, and they were discovered by a Danish scientist back about 100 years ago. One washed up on the shore, and that's
what was his name, Jerry?
I got it. If you give me a second,
I'm just kidding. You give it to me next time. I got to go. There's Jerry with everything you needed to know about anglerfish.
Can I contribute to that conversation?
But by the way, can we just acknowledge my joke that Jerry refused to acknowledge that when people see me naked, they think I'm translucent too because I'm so white. My hiney is so shiny. I'm just anyway. Go ahead.
Nobody cares.
Oh, come on. It's interesting to me. You don't get that on other radio. You don't get that on The Drive with Brian Wilson, probably for good reason. It's probably why.
That's why he's on Afternoon Drive.
And I'm just stuck here. It's $2.50 on Super Talk. I'm not stuck with you. I love being here. I take that back. It's $2.50 on Super Talk. All right, so Savory Spice. As a matter of fact, I made a promise that I was going to do this, and I'm going to post the latest of the successes involving Savory Spice because you guys know that I'm trying to lose a few lbs, and with regard to losing a few lbs, you got to do what you got to do in terms of food intake. Well, I don't have to worry about my spice intake because I've got Savory Spice on my side. Holly, David, 2 locations to serve you more on that in a moment. The wife has utilized the country onion herb veggie shaker available at Savory Spice. It's a seasoning that will it's just incredible. It puts it puts spuds on your taste buds, so to speak. But the country onion herb spice, you sprinkle that on. We did grilled zucchini and grilled squash. Absolutely dynamic. Game changer. I mean, the spice is where it's at, man. If you're trying to lose a few pounds, let me tell you, you need to get to Savory Spice and allow them to help you because they can spice up something that is, good for you, diet food, bland, and make it delicious. Savory Spice, 2 locations, Elladale Market, that is in Nashville on Charlotte Pike. You can also join them in Franklin, just off the square next to Gray's Pharmacy. Go see them and tell them that Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Savory Spice.
The search for the Titan continues. Supreme Court and their ethics, education stats out for the year, and an AI controversy in the Marvel Universe. That and more coming up at 3 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, I can't wait for that. I kid because I love. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, winding down our portion of the day. John Durham has continued his testimony over the course of this morning into the afternoon. And I know that Brian Wilson will have more. I was unable to hear a good portion of that, but I did note that John Durham shot down a line of questioning from Adam Schiff earlier today. You know, Schiff is expected to be censured. There's a vote on his censure again tomorrow. The 20 Republicans that voted against it claimed, along with, Thomas Massey, as related by Tim Burchett, might have the legitimate no vote, but the rest of them followed suit, saying that they included a fine and they didn't like that. And so I think McCarthy and others have removed the fine, and they're censuring Schiff for lying. Adam Schiff is a pencil-neck liar. He has been doing so repeatedly to the American people for years, and he's set to be censured. And he was questioning John Durham earlier today, and Durham just ate him up and chewed him up and spit him out. I'm certain that there's more on that coming up in just a couple of minutes. We'll be back bright and early at 12 noon tomorrow on the Matt Murphy Show. The Drive with Brian Wilson up next. Have a great afternoon, folks. So long.